Howdy folks, Super Koopa here. Welcome back to more Let's Play. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. We're starting here in Meringue Clouds. Second to last world. And I don't think this is too bad apart from the ghost house from what I remember. But I could be wrong. I am more than happy to admit when I'm wrong. That's something our society seems to be missing today, is the desire to admit when they're wrong. I mean, I see it in spurts, but it's not as common as it used to be, because there's a lot more ego in our culture than there used to be in a lot of ways. And I know some people are going to say, oh no, it's always been that way, it's just you didn't really see it because of the internet. And it's like, well, there might be some truth to that, but I think it's definitely emboldened people to be a lot more prideful. I think the internet has drawn out a lot of negative personality traits in this generation that's pretty much obsessed with it. And obsessed with social media. Cultal media. Social media does feel like a cult sometimes, doesn't it? Or at the very least, echo chambers. I just want this political nonsense to be over with. You know, I know we're coming up in America, we have the 2020 election, and that's when it's going to boil over, and that's why I said I'm going to get off of social media for 2020, which it took me a long time to do. I was mainly wanting to get off of Twitter because I knew Twitter was going to be the worst part. And so eventually I did get off it. I was just like, you know what, I've had enough. It is way too hostile, it is way too... It's not a good place to share controversial or otherwise opinions. It really isn't. Unless you've got a tight circle of friends on there, which... even then... it's still something that I don't recommend. I don't recommend spending long periods of time on Twitter. When I was a teenager, I did that because I had made a lot of friends there. And social media was one of the best ways for me to connect because I didn't really have a whole lot of outlets to connect with other people. And I completely understand that, and I'm sympathetic to that because I went through that experience as a teenager where I didn't have outlets. At the same time, I've also seen the dark side of that, where a lot of people are disingenuous, they end up being backstabbers, they end up just... you know, doing a complete 180 on you. People aren't who they say they are, because that's the nature of the internet. Even when people are trying to be straightforward and honest, they can still keep things hidden. And you don't really know somebody until you really get to know them. That takes time, whether online or in person. Because there's a lot of people who are going to say, oh, you should never have relationships online. And the reality, I think, that past generations need to understand is that now entire relationships are being made online. Like dating and marriage relationships are formed online. It's uncharted territory, but it's a reality that we need to accept. It's not going to go away. You can't just tell people, oh, don't marry that girl you met online through that dating site. You know, I know people who've done that. Now, granted, that was just the catalyst for them initially meeting. They got together in real life. But still, it's the way it happens. But I know older generations are going to say, oh, you shouldn't do that, there's too much risk. And I will agree that there's risk. But that's how a lot of friendships and relationships are formed in this day and age, because of the ability to communicate quicker. Boy, that was a mess. I got a nice flower, but do I need it? No. Oh well. Oh, that was terrible. What did I do? Good grief. Sorry if I sound quiet, too. I've been looking at my audio. I think it's because my mic is so far away from my chair at some points. Not entirely sure. But yeah, that's just the nature of the internet. So, for 2020, I made a goal. I made sort of I call it a pseudo resolution because there are parts of it that I can't really keep for the sake of what I do here with the Let's Plays and other stuff. Like Instagram is staying for me. Because not only has it not necessarily been a negative experience, but because I have made a lot of really good, genuine friends on there, as hard as that is to believe. And it's really good for promoting stuff that I'm doing in terms of videos and getting that information out there. It is my primary social media in that sense. Oh, that's bad. That's bad. But as far as Twitter's concerned, yeah, it's gone. And that was hard for me to do because, again, I spent years on Twitter. I made some of my closest gaming and otherwise friends there. So there was a bit of an emotional thing for me leaving, but at the same time, it got to the point where I was barely using it anyway because it's changed so much since I started. You know, I started back in the era when Twitter was kind of a joke. People were using it because it was popular, but it was really... Alright, let's see how this turned out. Probably not good. Oh, hey, there we go. I will take a mushroom. Something good in my inventory, finally. But yeah, when I started, Twitter was a joke. It had the short, very extremely short character limit compared to what it is now. And people just tweeted the most mundane, ridiculous stuff. Let's try this side. And I just got into it because I saw that there were a bunch of different, interests there. And it was just how, at the time, it was how content creators were really connecting. And it still is to this day. But I would argue the environment has gotten a lot worse, especially since the platform has become increasingly political. And I know people are going to say, well, not everybody has a negative political experience on Twitter. And that is absolutely true. There are ways to avoid a lot of that drama and stuff that's going on. But a lot of stuff gets absorbed through osmosis as well, Even if you're not trying to get into drama, it can happen. I think it's just the nature of a social platform. You've got people from all different social walks of life. Some of them know how to be mature and treat other people, and others are just immature. And they're desperately hoping for friendship, but they were never really taught how to go about doing it respectfully and honestly. I encountered a lot of that. A lot of people that I knew were just very immature. They didn't know how to behave socially, and they created a lot of problems when you interacted with them. And many of them were just addicted to social media because you could tell, they just wanted the attention. They were so attention-starved. And that's unfortunate. And then there was the, well, I don't know if I can say it on YouTube, but there was a bit of a mental health epidemic, let's say, on Twitter for quite a long time. And in the mix of all of the people who were serious, there were a lot of people who were trying to manipulate a bad mental health state to get attention. And I'm sure some of that is still going on. But a lot of those people hit the road once they realized they couldn't get attention anymore. And they just kind of disappeared off social media, which for them, honestly, was the best move. So, long story short, because I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing me talk about this, I'm done with Twitter for the foreseeable future. I was only hanging on to it realistically because I could share Switch screenshots, and sharing them on Facebook is a little bit awkward with family, Not that there's anything wrong with the screenshots per se, but it all just kind of becomes mixed in. I treat the platforms differently, so just the way I kind of do things, No, these guys are going to be a pain, aren't they? Part of the problem is, yeah, I am going way too fast. So if you want to contact me on social media, Instagram is the best place to do it. As always, I have links. But even then, I'm trying to limit how much time I spend on these platforms. Just because of all of the political nonsense. Like I said, I can't wait for all of this to just settle down. And who knows, maybe it never will, but I want it to because it's getting so bad. Just the everything about it. I mean, if I wanted to go into specifics, I'd probably make a separate video for that and just talk about my political views if anybody's curious, but I sincerely doubt anybody cares. But if anybody is curious, because I started talking about it, then let me know. But most people don't care, and that's how it should be. Most people do not care, because it's just points of argumentation. There are good, serious, intellectual discussions to be had about political issues, but there's a time, there's a place, and there's a context, really. And a lot of that is missing with social media. People are just putting things out there. So, I think we need to be aware of that as much as possible. Oh, that could have ended so poorly. Oh, Star Coin. Really didn't need it, but it's there. I guess I shouldn't. Oh, and that puts me in a fantastic spot. Are you serious? Is there no... There's no hidden block? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I didn't hit a checkpoint flag, either. I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah, I remember. This isn't terribly difficult. But yeah, that's kind of where I stand on the whole social media thing, so I'll wrap that discussion up. Oh, I didn't know that would kill me. Well, great. I have to start that all over again. If it gets too hot, I'll use that mushroom. But in the last video, I talked a little bit about Animal Crossing, New Horizons, and some of the controversy surrounding the save system, or at this time, the rumors of the save system. Because I'm recording this the same day as that video, back to back. So, who knows what will have changed by the time you're watching this. But I'm still getting the game day one. I understand the frustration people have, but if anybody's thinking, oh, we should boycott the game because of this, no. No, it's gonna be fine, ultimately. It's just people not being able to use multiple systems, in a sense. And I've seen people already trying to say, oh, this is exactly why Nintendo's doing this, and it's like, well, no, they haven't come out and say why it doesn't use the Nintendo Online cloud saves. You can't just assume motive. But, whatever. There's always something to complain about. I'm not saying this isn't legitimate either. Like I said in the last video, I get it, but you know, sometimes you just have to find the best in these situations and take what you can get. But the criticisms are indeed valid. Based on how we know how these games work, it's very valid. Alright, one more hit should do it. There we go. I'm finishing a lot of these bosses off without a super mushroom. Making it risky, but also getting through them quicker. Risk versus reward sort of thing. Alright, folks, well that is actually going to do it. I'm sorry we didn't get a lot done in this episode, but it is what it is. So, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next part. We're getting closer to the end. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.